Hello and welcome to the McTaggart Attack podcast. I'm Kevin McTaggart. I am the host and the creator of the McTaggart Attack podcast. I'm a stand-up comedian who lives in Vermont, and this podcast is how I give my opinions on things. One of the ways, anyway. It's probably the main way that I give my opinions on stuff, or I talk about things, or I basically talk about whatever I want in my podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at KevMcT. You can email me McTaggartAttack@gmail.com, or you can find the Facebook page for the McTaggart Attack podcast on Facebook. And like I said, my podcast is my way of talking about whatever I want. And that's what this episode is about today. Giving my opinions on whatever topics I want to give my opinions on. So this episode is about being alcohol free. That's what it is. I like to get personal in my podcast sometimes. If you can't be able to tell, I wanted to talk about how I'm 4 months alcohol free now. Decided that back in April that I didn't want to drink anymore. I've quit drinking. This is the third time that I've quit drinking. The first time was August of 2016. And I quit drinking at that point for about... I started again in January of 2017. I went without a drink until January 21st of 2017. That was Trump's inauguration day. So I couldn't think of any way to cope with it besides, and the only way I could cope with it was drinking. So I did. Had 2 drinks on Trump's inauguration day. So that was fun. And then I started drinking again. I did. Most of my drinking occurs on like Fridays or Saturdays, like when I'm done with work, So, yeah, I drank on Fridays or Saturdays, and then a couple months went by, and I had about 6 beers at Margarita's in Lebanon, New Hampshire, and the bartender wouldn't let me drive home. So I called my dad and had him pick me up. So in March 2017, the end of March of 2017, I decided, okay, this was pretty fucking embarrassing. Time to stop drinking again. So I did. And that lasted... the next time I had a drink, I think had to be... Was it, I think it was the weekend before Labor Day. in 2017. It was like late August. It was the last weekend of August. But I don't think it was Labor Day. Might have been Labor Day weekend. I'm not sure. But I had a drink. And so and I didn't really drink all that much until about November of 2017, when I got annoyed about, I got very angry about the way things were going at work. I had a really bad day at work, and I just decided to start drinking again. I think it was actually slightly before that, because I had ran a half marathon and I didn't want to drink the Chad Half Marathon in October of 2017. And I didn't have anything to drink until then. Or did I? Nope, that's a lie. Because I did have a drink in like August, like I said. And then I barely drank until the half marathon. And then the weekend after the half marathon, I helped with the Rocky Horror Picture Show at the Marquee in Middlebury, and I had a lot to drink there, mostly Bud Lights, and they tasted great because I hadn't had anything in a while. So I drank a lot that night. I'm like, oh, I'll stop now. And then a few days later, we had a shitty day at work. There were a lot of shitty days at work. I'm going to do an episode called My Conifer Experience, maybe this week, just to get shit off my chest, because I'm suffering from PTSD about that. And so I started drinking again. You know, every weekend. Fridays or Saturdays, mostly Fridays. And then I just kept doing it for like all of 2018. I drank. I drank more. Like, there were times during 2018 where I drank pretty much every fucking day. And I had a consecutive streak of, like, drinking. And a lot of it had to do with work stress. But I'm not blaming work, per se. I'm blaming myself for choosing to drink. So I got my new job in October of 2018. Still drinking. Until, and I would try to quit a few times. It's not like I didn't try to quit. I did try to quit a few times. And I just felt this overwhelming feeling of depression. Especially when I was at bars or around drinking, and I wasn't drinking, and I didn't want to drink, but I was still depressed. So I drank. Yeah. Which is really fucking stupid. And so in April, I had a good talk with my friend GW Foley about, you know, why I was feeling depressed. Because I did. I felt depressed. Because I talked to him another weekend. It was a weekend when I decided to stop drinking. I drank on April 12th, 2019, and I was at a comedy show that Saturday, and I didn't want to drink, and I didn't have anything to drink. And I tried really hard not to have anything to drink, and I was depressed. And I was talking to my friend GW Foley about it, and just talked about stuff that was bothering me and things like that, and it felt good, but I still felt depressed. And I didn't want to drink, though. I knew I didn't want to drink. I wanted to drink, but I didn't want to drink. So what I did was, that night, or maybe, yeah, actually it was that next morning. It was that Sunday morning I woke up and said, hey, I'm 1 day sober. 1 day without alcohol. And got a lot of responses. Got a lot of positive responses on Twitter. You know, it was great. Strangers just being so nice and positive to me. It was fantastic. And so that got me through the next day and the next day and the next day. And then I think it was like the fourth day when I got a direct message from someone. This person followed me on Twitter, and they knew that I was a comedian, and they talked about how Pete Holmes, the comedian, was on Ron Funch's podcast, and Pete Holmes had quit drinking, and he credited this book by Annie Grace called This Naked Mind. And so that's what this person DM'd me, was about this book that he listened to, I guess. And so I listened to the book because like I wasn't drinking, but I'm like, let me listen to this audiobook and see if it helps, because I think I had heard about this book previously. I don't know when I heard about it, but I think it was when I wasn't drinking that I heard about this book, and I thought, oh, I won't need this book. But then, you know, I finally heard about this book again from someone on Twitter, and I'm like, you know what? Never done an audiobook before. Never listened to an audiobook before. Let me check it out. And audiobooks are a lot like podcasts. You're just listening to people talk. And I listened to this audiobook, and part of the book, I won't go into what all of the book is about, but the big thing that I got from this book, one of the big things, there's several things I got from this book, but one thing in particular talked about like the conscious mind and the subconscious mind, about how your subconscious mind wants to keep drinking, but consciously you want to stop drinking. So there's a conflict there, and that causes like depression. And I'm like, oh my God, that's what happened to me. That's what happened to me. Like, I wanted to quit drinking. I was telling myself I wanted to quit drinking, but subconsciously I wanted to continue drinking, and I was upset that I couldn't continue drinking. And like when I heard this part of the book, it just made something click in my head and say to myself, oh my God. Yeah, that's what it is. Subconsciously, I wanted to quit. I wanted to keep drinking. So it made something click in my head, and I read that book, and it was great. Loved it. Highly recommend This Naked Mind for you to either read or listen to if you're trying to quit drinking. I'll tell you what, if I ever drink again and I need to quit, I will listen to that book again. Oh my God, it's so fucking great. Changed my life for the better. And I kept tweeting about it every day, sobriety, and I kept getting great messages. Like, there was one guy who was a radio host in Boston, John Dennis, who's been sober for 4 or 5 years, 3 or 4 years, I think, and he reached out to me. I don't even like what he tweets, and he reached out to me, and that was great. And it was just the overwhelming positive support that I got from Twitter about this was just amazing. And that was another reason why I don't drink, is because I don't want to disappoint all of my Twitter followers. And also, just what I learned from the book about how bad alcohol is for you, and how, you know, it's just not worth it. And it was just great. I did it for the first 45 days. And then I stopped at 45 because it just I didn't like the idea, and I'd heard about this, and I heard other people talk about how, like, even in this book, Annie Grace, I think, even mentions about how, you know, counting the days. You're just counting she may not have said this, but this clicked in my head. I'm just counting down the days till my next drink. So I'm not counting. I mean, I know what day I stopped. And every once in a while, I'll tweet out, hey, it's been this many months or years or whatever. But I'm just like, I don't count anymore. And it's great just like being alcohol free. I don't like to say sober because to me that sort of implies that I may drink again. And like I'm just choosing to live an alcohol free lifestyle. And it's working for the most part. It's great. Whenever I feel like drinking, I just think about how bad alcohol is for you. Which is something that this naked mind discusses. So I just focus on how bad alcohol is for you. Like, I had a really bad, like, I think my worst day, the closest I ever came since April to drinking was, I think it was back in June. It was a golf league night. I had been beaten by an 11-year-old on the golf course. And I've been playing shitty golf. And I was trying to think of ways. I was in a bad mood. And usually when I was in the golf league before, I just rejoined this year. And usually after golf league, I would drink. I would go get something to eat and drink and come home late and get up still tasting alcohol the next day. It's a terrible way to live. And with that in my head, I almost thought about asking for a beer or getting a beer or drinking a beer. And I won't lie, I still think about drinking. But then I think about how much I don't want to drink. And that helps. But that night was probably the closest. I did go to a restaurant, but I didn't have any beer. I had a soda. That's what I usually have now at bars and restaurants and such. But yeah, it's just... some days are a struggle, some are not. But that was probably the worst day. And there've been weird reactions too. I've had hives. And I have to think that's alcohol related, because not necessarily alcohol related, but it's anxiety related, and so I just, yeah, anxiety. And how would I deal with anxiety? Drink. Right. But now I just deal with my anxiety. But I didn't even know I had anxiety. I just thought I worried all the time. Turns out that's anxiety. So that's crazy. But yeah, I'm learning how to cope with my emotions now without having to drink alcohol. And it's a struggle sometimes, but I'm getting through it. There was this other series of books that I've listened to from Jen Sincero, which it's How to Be a Badass, or You're a Badass. I don't remember the exact title. I've talked about that book before. Look it up on my podcast episodes, but it's good, and it just helps you have the proper mindset for things. If you just be positive and just embrace the universe, good things can happen. Good things will happen. If you expect bad things to happen, bad things will happen. You have to be positive and just be positive and just be okay, great, it's good. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it happens. It's good. It's all going to be positive. Whatever happens is for a reason. A good reason. So yeah, I've been dealing with that. That's been helping. And I love not waking up on a Saturday morning. I don't miss the hangovers. I don't miss my head hurting on a Saturday morning. I don't miss that at all. Not one bit. I don't miss spending a lot of money on alcohol. I don't miss any of that. It's great. Really fucking great. And it's been 4 months so far. It's been over 4 months so far. So yeah, it's been good. Because I should talk more about like my drinking history, but maybe I'll do that in another podcast episode or something. But it's just basically for the past, I didn't drink, to sum up, I didn't really drink that much in college. I drank more after I graduated. And I drank more when I moved back in with my parents back in 2004. Like, that's when my drinking really, actually, it was more like 2006 was when my drinking really intensified. Because, like, I didn't want to go home because my parents are there. I love my parents, but it was a coping mechanism. And now I need to figure out new coping mechanisms, and I'm looking forward to that. And I'm hoping that this third time that I've quit drinking is definitely the charm, and I never want to drink again, and I don't want alcohol in my body anymore, and I'm intent on never drinking again, and I hope that I never drink again, and I feel great. I love it. My body feels different. I have money in my bank account before payday, which is not something I'm used to. Saving money. I didn't know. I don't know how to fucking do that. Why? Because I never had money to save. But now I do, and it's very exciting. Things are changing positively, and I'm really looking forward to see how much more they change. And I'm gonna keep talking about my alcohol. I will keep on saying sobriety, but I don't want to call it sobriety. I want to keep talking about being alcohol free. I may do it every week, or something, or just whenever I need to give content for my podcast. But I hope that you're listening to this podcast, and I hope that it helps you. I hope what I've said relates, or I hope that, like the book that I mentioned, This Naked Mind, I hope that I recommend it. If you want to quit drinking, read or listen to that book, and it will change your life for the good. I promise. And that's the bottom line. If you smell what the McTaggart Attack podcast is cooking.